February 7th meeting? And is there any comment? Okay, no comment. Can I have someone move to adopt the minutes of February 7th meeting?
So moved.
Set?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? All opposed? Okay. Okay, so the majority of our meeting, we have put aside to talk about our, well, basically it's our community economic development plan, implementation plan, next steps, following on our workshop that we held in March. So now I had asked Levin, Levin had some thoughts. I spoke to him a few days ago. He had some thoughts about, process going forward, because I know that remember at the end of the workshop, we sort of felt like, okay, we went through this round trying to prioritize things and identify what was doable, basically, relatively easily. And then we kind of, I think at the end of, from my recollection, kind of said, okay, we all just sort of need to let this sit a bit and go from there. Because it did feel, I think, I don't know, from my perspective, it still felt a bit daunting, trying to identify these things and what we were going to actually put in our implementation / work plan, right? So does anybody, first of all, just have some general thoughts and ideas about either reflecting on the workshop or ideas about moving ahead that you want to share?
I just, did you guys receive the workshop notes? And
Yes.
Was it a true story? Question?
You know what? I'm sorry. I actually, due to the time constraints, I didn't have a chance to review them. I was just trying to do that now.
Didn't either, being as I got them yesterday.
Would you like me to put them on screen?
And they're also in a Word document, so they were hard to read on my iPad. You've got yellow highlighting, which I don't understand.
So the yellow highlighting was, our notes were just, we were verbally going through the list of recommendations and saying which ones, basically one per category other than health, would be something that we could include in the CDC work plan. So I just highlighted the one.
Okay, even though several of them were rated high. Okay, got you. And it's really hard to look at all three attachments at the same time.
Sorry, I came late because I'm at the visitor center dealing with visitors, but I missed the beginning of the conversation. Given that we're missing a number of members, does it make sense to move forward on this at this time? I'm sorry, I'm sure you had a conversation before I was here.
No, we didn't.
Oh,
we were waiting to get quorum.
Okay.
Our conversation really was about whether we were going to have a meeting at this time or not, Joe. So maybe it's honest confession. How many people have actually done their homework and read all the material and done a bit of reflection?
You know, I have to admit, I did read it earlier today, but there has not been a lot of reflection time.
I haven't been able to read all of it at all because I haven't had time.
Yeah. I think, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what we were hoping was, you know, with the notes and having some time to think about it since our workshop, that when we would get together again, it would be more about creating actions or who would take ownership of what. You know, maybe, you know, if we did step away, it could be an opportunity to look at the notes and reflect on that discussion and maybe, you know, come back even individually with some thoughts in terms of as members, what are our interests, either to support an initiative or to lead an initiative?
Yes, and I would like to hear from Levin.
I
Yeah,
guess
so
one of my concerns and thoughts is with all the other plans, like I'm talking about the recreation plan, the transportation plan, the arts and cultural management, we actually have a plan that was adopted by council and is posted on the website as the plan. And what we did at the workshop, which I don't have any problem with, was identify pieces of the consultant's plan that we could actually do. But to post the consultant's plan on the website as this is our plan, I can't support, because there's things in that plan that we legally can't do, you know, under the community charter and stuff like that. So I don't, that's sort of my, I don't have, you know, creating an action plan and what we're going to actually implement and do is easy, but that work plan, where's the document we're actually going to post on the website as the plan?
It doesn't exist yet.
Yeah, but so
It's work down the road.
so we are going to create a plan, and are we going to try and do that in the next 4 months?
Okay, I'm a little bit confused. Has the consultant's plan not been publicly made available? I thought it was on our website.
It's been posted as publicly made available, but it has
Yeah.
not been adopted by council. And
No,
I don't think council can adopt it because there's things in there that council cannot do. There's no reference in there to the cultural master plan, which is a plan that's adopted. So it needs an update or a slight rewrite to be adopted by council.
and I didn't understand that it needed to be adopted by council, simply that council would receive it. And then they received it and gave us instruction to produce an implementation plan.
I don't know if it was, well, I don't know that the instructions were quite to produce, but to advise as to how to proceed with implementation.
Okay,
So anyhow,
okay.
Maureen, you're looking at me strangely.
No,
Okay, are you copacetic with what I'm saying?
I agree that we don't have a plan that can be posted as an approved Bowen Island CED plan.
Okay.
And I think that what we're engaged in at the moment is what needs to be done, you know, looking at it critically and thinking about it in terms of feasibility. The upshot of that is not going to be a community economic development plan either. But
Yeah.
I don't know if it's worthwhile for this committee to say, yes, in the next 4 months, we're going to produce the community economic development plan that we had hoped for all along. I think we just kind of have to put one foot in front of the other and see where we go with this. Personally, I'd be happy if we pull together an implementation plan that focused on a couple of things that were doable.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so rather than calling it an implementation plan, I'd call it a CEDC work plan for
And
economic.
yeah, that's kind of how I was thinking about it as well, in terms of, as a committee, we want to identify what our goals, you know, our work plan is for this year, right? So I've just been looking at this, is that this is our this is the basis of, you know, from which we create that plan of what we're actually going to implement
Or start to work on.
or start to work on. Yeah.
And I just want to add, I guess, as my notes from our last meeting, we were going through this. I think it's something we've been, as a committee, it's something we're challenged with is taking that report from the third party and trying to pull out some tangible action items. And I think, you know, from the results or where we ended up, from my perspective, anyways, at the last meeting, was that, you know, we had tried to distill it down quite a bit. We came in pretty broad and then we kind of pulled it out. And that's, I think, Steph, you've highlighted some
Yeah.
of those, right, in the notes. And it's really now about, okay, well, how do we feel about that, and where do we move forward from? But I think the general consensus, yeah, is we need to keep it concise and actionable. Anyways, that's just frame of reference again, reminding myself as much as anyone else about where we ended up with.
So is the next, we also talked about having meetings with the sort of related people in the community that were involved in these various different groups. So, and then who's going to take the lead on organizing those with those groups?
And also who establishes the invitation list? Because the notion was that that phase would be invitational.
Certainly any businesses we know of that are involved in those areas would be. Do they all get invited so it doesn't look exclusive? Or do we invite some and then open it up to the public who might be interested to submit a name as long as they're involved in that area?
It really depends on what we're looking at, what initiative we're looking at, and what makes sense. I mean, I'm just scanning these, you know, the ideas again.
Well, like looking at the encourage low impact tourism. So if we're going to have a meeting, do we have a meeting of all the people that are related to the tourism industry, or just with the board of TBI?
Yeah, I feel like Jody's on our committee and she's tackling Jody, you expressed before that's a priority of, you know, definitely something high on your radar, right? So I feel like that's another item that it seems like it's already being addressed, and I'm not sure how much more we need to do there.
So then do we just put in our work plan, we're not dealing with this because we're assuming that TBI is dealing with it?
Well, you know, for instance, health and wellness, we had put there no action for the committee. You know, basically, yes, general support for the, you know, other groups and organizations that are doing that. Feel like it's well taken care of, right?
Jody, did you want to comment?
Yeah, sorry, I'm getting a little bit lost here, but to Allison's point, you know, low impact tourism and Vaughan, yes, we strive to do that, but you know, at this time we have limited capacity, limited financing, financial support to do what we would like to do. So, but I don't know how that fits into action plan here. But yeah, I mean, so it's what I'm saying is, yes, we are trying to do what we can within our limited capacity. But does that, how does that fit in the broader plan, and what further action could be done? I think there's more to discuss about that.
Okay, so if there are things that you would like to do, but you're not currently able to, is there something that the committee can then help with?
Well, I think there's a growing awareness based on this plan, based on the OCP. You know, tourism is coming. Tourism has always been a part of this community, and it's not going to go away. And so destination management is key. This has been a huge part of what this organization has been striving to do. But so, for instance, today I come to do a meeting here. The visitor center is closed because we only get visitor services funding from Victoria Long Weekend until September. But I'm come here, I have to deal with people. It's community economic development, it's destination management, yet we're not actually getting funding to do that. Plus digital management, our website. So, I mean, I would love a broader understanding of the things that need to be done to support responsible tourism, and how that can be supported capacity financially. Yeah. So
it's maybe the challenge for that goal, because I was only looking at the ones that were highlighted in yellow, Vaughn. Is it the main thing is to define what the community and what we think, what council, the community and TBI to agree on the definition of low impact tourism, or what needs to be done for destination management.
Definitions definitely help for sure, and everybody to have a dialogue. And yeah, so that's what I'm just saying. I think it needs to be flushed out a little bit more. What are the issues? What are surrounding the issues? What's the capacity, and what can be done to do it? So I do think for sure this needs to be fleshed out more than just to say 4.3 encourage low impact tourism. But that would be for any of the points that have been highlighted so far here as well, though.
Could I
Yes.
just interrupt you?
Yep.
Because I don't want this to not happen during this meeting. This product.
Yes, beautiful.
Perfect.
Beautiful, useful, very, very CED-ish. So congratulations to Tourism Bowen for
Yes.
coming up with this.
Absolutely.
It was wonderful to see. Wendy, you wouldn't have seen this. It's a booklet. The title is just Go Local, Shop, Eat, Drink, and Explore. Support Bowen together. So it's not so much tourist oriented, although it certainly can be used by tourists. It's oriented towards residents, and it's full of sort of directory items and short profiles of business owners and businesses. It's absolutely gorgeous. So I was really thrilled to see this, and it came out of the blue for me. I opened the undercurtain. Wow, there it was. So I mean, we didn't have anything as a committee, any part in producing this, but it absolutely supports CED in our community. So good on you, Bonnie. Jody, it's a really nice product.
Thank you. I did mention it, but it probably wouldn't have made sense. I said that we were thrilled to get the funding, which is federal funding, but administered through the BC Chamber of Commerce. So we were thrilled to get it. It was a horribly painful, tight deadline. So that booklet, a lot of late nights and sweat and tears put into it. And then unfortunately, the print quality, they had a problem, and we ended up with a not as beautiful as it should be copy. But anyway, we've had a positive response. So Maureen, thank you. And it applies. It's very much about trying to put the face behind the businesses, behind the organization, and just build community, and for people to recognize why it's much more, why it's important to shop local as opposed to just ordering from Amazon. So yes, it's very much community economic development, but we feel, or I feel, Tourism Bowen Island, that is what we do. We do it here, and we do it with visitors, is encouraging community economic development as well as responsible tourism. So thank you.
If I can just throw something out here, because I know, the report was a bit overwhelming. Our workshop distilled certain things. Certainly what popped out is the destination management, wanting to create sustainability. And, if we're really creating a work plan for this year, I almost want to just turn to Jody and say, like, what would you want to see the committee do over the next year? Like, what are some initiatives that we should be focusing on over this next year that really do support that destination management piece then?
I think, destination management, but also part of the community economic, the responsible tourism was pointed out there, but there's also the other points that were raised is, supporting low impact, which means off-season tourism, getting people to stay, longer in the community. We know that when people stay longer in the community, it's lower impact in the sense that they have more of a cultural exchange. I mean, that's what tourism is about. People are going for new experiences and they want to have a cultural exchange. We all do it. We all seek out those kinds of things. They're satisfying and they're enjoyable. So we tourism, but like I said, it is really difficult. We're a really small nonprofit. We get very limited funding. We only get the visitor services from May long weekend to September, but the visitor service, I'm dealing with people right now, and it's throughout the year. It's also our website. It's also digital. And so we could do more. Essentially what I'm saying is we had more support. So it's recognizing that, and then all the components that lead to, sorry, phones are going all over here, leading to supporting the objectives, which is off-season tourism, shoulder season, responsible stewardship. You know, when we were COVID the last couple of years, the community was looking at us to make sure that we're educating and informing visitors to follow the protocol. So we had to go extra. Thank God, we got a little bit of extra support from Destination BC to buy masks and to buy hand sanitizer, but we were the frontline people helping to manage that, and the people that were in the position of trying to reassure residents that we're doing what we can within our capacity. So it's a lot of components. So sorry, I'm kind of drifting off probably in tangents that are not maybe answering your question.
Well, and again, I just, because when I think of a work plan, and I think what really will help us really define what we want to do is just reminding ourselves we want to execute something within a year. And in my mind, I think whenever we're looking to execute something within a certain period of time, to have sort of a point person who has ownership over that initiative, but of course works with other people to support either other committee members or maybe other volunteers, you know. So again, what pops up for me again when I'm just reading through the notes in our conversations, and I remember we talked about that digital component, website, app that provides information that may then alleviate some of the pressure from the visitor center in order to provide information, perhaps, you know, in some ways. And what was discussed was the sustainability piece. Like, do we really have a resource who can do it? You know, if you're going to have that digital resource, it has to be updated regularly. Who could do that? And then we started to talk about, well, maybe there could be a co-op position. You know, maybe we could, you know, working with some of the universities, get a co-op student who could then take on that piece. So anyways, that was kind of what was resonating with me a bit. And I'm just thinking, you know, then because tourism is so big for Bowen Island, you know, maybe what is that one initiative that we can really work on this year to get some traction? There's lots of things going on, but is there one thing that you think would be very meaningful and really helpful? That was either, you know, talked about at the workshop, and we could do that with the other things too. Like, I know we talked about co-working, because I know Vaughn and I have talked about that before, like a wee work hub on Bowen Island, like love that. I mean, that's something, for example, I'm happy to take on. I know one of the actions was just starting it off incrementally, organizing maybe a monthly lunch and learn session. You know, that's something that I could do this year, you know, with Steph's help, of course, you know, organizing a lunch and learn so that those who are working remotely, once a month you get together, bring your lunch, or maybe it's catered, I don't know. And then we can maybe have a speaker for 20 minutes that would then support those who are working on the island, you know, things that would be of interest to remote workers. Anyways, I mean, so that, for example, is an initiative that I could take on, you know, with support. It's something that could be done over the year, and that could be an action plan. So, yeah.
Jody, do you want to give that some thought and think about if there's one thing in particular to support your work there, or the whole destination management area? Is there something you would like us to, that we as a committee could take on?
Well, I mean, we're always working on things, you know, Kirsten, I've applied for multiple grants, co-op grants. I was just, you know, so I'm always trying to, as a nonprofit that has $0, looking at creative ways to move things forward. We have a website that was functioning. It had events board and yes, and supporting digital services is important, but working at the visitor center, being here has reminded me how much when people come here, they actually want the interpersonal interaction. I just spoke to people, they're waiting for the kayak to open because there's wind. They want to know what they can do as an alternative. Then they ask where they want to eat. I ask them what they, you know, I remind them the ferry tickets, a return fare. You don't have to pay. Look at, here are the ferry times. So to get that information, somebody, they want that interaction, they want the referrals, they want their suggestions. I cut to the chase as opposed for them to, you know, I mean, the digital component's really important, but it surprises me how much people, like I said, tourism is a cultural exchange. They want to have that and they're so appreciative when they get that.
And as somebody, I personally would rather talk to somebody and have that interaction and give me your advice, you know, as opposed to like digital products don't really give you advice. I mean, most of the time they don't. But again, it's just to highlight what would be most helpful for you, what would be most relevant for you, like knowing that this is an important aspect of economic development for Bowen Island. If there's a 1-year action that we can take, you know, like.
Well, Maureen, you wanted to.
I'm wondering if there has ever been a volunteer program for the tourism Bowen Island, and if there isn't currently one, if that might be resurrected. There are lots of people on this island who are knowledgeable and perhaps have a little bit of time on their hands, and setting up a series of volunteer shifts, a bit of training, a bit of appreciation for them might take some of the pressure off of you in responding as a person.
Yeah, no, when we first started, because we had zero money, we had a couple of volunteers. But to be honest, a volunteer, it's quite different. Like, for instance, I know the library or the arts count, you know, the Hearth, they have volunteers. It's a relatively easy, low demanding. I know Hearth, most of the volunteers are like age 70 or over. The visitor services, the fact that you're dealing with so many people, it's a different kind. It's much more demanding in that sense. So we did try the first few years. We did, and we had some people, but it got down to when you're actually paying somebody like a student, you know, there's the scripts and it's organized and stuff like that. So as much as I would love to have a volunteer pool, I think, you know, somebody over 70 doesn't want to be out here. Most people don't. I would love to get more, but it's certainly something we've tried, and it just dwindled away with the people that were participating. They moved on. And
well, what I might suggest, two comments. One is that there has been at least 30% turnover of the population of Bowen Island in the last 6 years or so. So there may be a different group of people that you could potentially draw on, and there are a lot of lucid 70-year-olds on this island. And then the second point is that it is highly unlikely that you would be receiving additional funding from the municipality this year. So you are probably going to have to rely on that creativity to fill some of the gaps. And if the major gap is not so much the digital side of things, it's a gap, yeah, for sure. But if it's the people side of things, there may be people on island who would be happy to help. And that would be in addition to the summer students. I think the summer students are fabulous and on the ground, but something to think about.
Yeah. So we did, to what Maureen's saying is, we put, every year we put in an application with the municipality trying to say, hey, we could do this if we had this. And each year the municipality says, we don't have the funding, and I understand the limits. What I would love the Community Economic Development Committee is to help support us to get that recognition that Tourism Bowen Island could do more. For instance, support perhaps multi-year funding. So, you know, it's an ongoing frustration. You know, our service agreement is been at $20,000, which doesn't even keep up to the minimum wage that's risen over the years. So, so we'll have to, I mean, I'll have to talk to the municipality about it because, yeah.
If I could just throw something out, could our committee maybe organize a fundraiser, which would then bring awareness to all the work that you're doing, bring awareness that, you know, that we need extra funds to sort of grow this aspect of our economy. I mean, I'm not sure sort of what the gap is for you in terms of what additional funds you need, but maybe we could do a fundraiser. Maybe it's even a fundraiser where, you know, not from Bowen Island, but people visit Bowen Island and we do some sort of special event that raises funds for tourism.
Yeah.
There is the MRDT tax that we've been talking about doing.
Yeah, and we certainly want to do that. You know, once again, capacity issues about us getting that. But yes, no, for sure, Allison, that's on our to-do list. Unfortunately, COVID came and.
What about, I know this has been talked about before too, but I don't know, as a committee, do we have the capacity to advocate for like a 50 cents tourism fee that the ferries, for instance, would collect? No?
So
Maureen shaking her head like you just know that will never happen. Is that what you're saying?
I just to jump in there, that would be a discussion that would probably, I talked to somebody at Destination B because we're thinking about that. Yeah, I mean, how do we perhaps get visitors to contribute a bit more? And that's been raised over the years, but it would take quite, I was told by somebody at Destination BC, it would have to be something the municipalities that are served by the ferries, they'd have to sort of do a collaborative effort to say, hey, can we put a 25-cent surcharge on, you know, tickets or 50 cents, and it could go to ferry marshal, it could, you know, I mean, but that would have to be a municipal driven kind of in collaboration with other municipalities. That's what I was sort of told. It makes sense. It would be a great idea.
Pat had his hand up.
Yeah, thanks. Really good conversation, actually. This is interesting because I think we are distilling something out of something more tangible, meaningful. I mean, obviously, Bowen Island tourism needs help in terms of, you know, fully implementing its mandate. And I guess the question then becomes, how, as a committee, how much do we want to support Bowen Island tourism in that? Like, in one of the things that I was going to mention, but Jody, you already brought it up, was obviously grants and grant writing. I know it takes a lot of time and effort, and even identifying the grants that are available, that alone is kind of a full-time job for some people. But can the committee support you in that? And I guess a second part to that is, you know, does the committee want to support Bowen Island tourism in that? Kind of two different questions, I guess. And then, you know, Kirsten, you brought up a good one in terms of like fundraising, and then, you know, maybe we step that out and just more broadly look at revenue generators within Bowen Island tourism. And again, does the committee want us to support Bowen Island tourism in identifying and executing on some of those additional revenue generators? I know I see T-shirts and stickers and stuff behind you, Jody, and that's wonderful. But there's probably a bunch of other things that you're probably aware of as well, but that other members could maybe contribute towards identifying. Anyways, a couple questions. Yes, I mean, as a committee, how much can we and do we want to support Bowen Island tourism and executing on some of these things, I guess, like grant writing?
Yeah, like what I don't really know what our capacity is to do that, you know,
Right.
and I mean, is there nobody on Bowen Island who works for BC Ferries, like high up?
There used to be. I don't know if it's still here.
I'm just saying, you know, use the context we have, right? Like, yeah. Anyways, Maureen, what were you going to say?
I'm wondering if we only have a short meeting here, and we really put Jody on the spot in terms of the area that she is connected with. Can I take 5 minutes just to talk about housing? Would that be okay?
Yeah, Maureen, can I just say though, in general, because I think for this meeting, so what we've done now is we're delving into the items that we sort of, you know, came out as priorities from our workshop, and we're trying to tackle them one by one. And I feel like it's more, I know it's another meeting, but I feel like if we did all go away and put some real thought into these items and did another workshop session where we say, okay, who, you know, what is needed here? How can we do it? And everyone brings some suggestions from their own, you know, knowledge base kind of thing. Are we willing to do that? Because I don't think we're going to be able to move this whole process forward in our regular meetings, right?
I think it's much easier when we're there in person and the back and forth is happening and we can read each other. So
yeah. And maybe, and now we would have a mandate that everyone is a bit more prepared, has a bit more time to go through the notes that Steph provided and think through some of these items and bring that to a workshop. But yes, you can have 5 minutes now.
So the 5 minutes. So in our meeting, we talked about the need for worker housing, which is more directly connected to the CEDC mandate. And there's a bunch of stuff that was going on at the municipal level, and there's a housing committee and so forth. So what I wanted to do was to bring to your attention a couple of things. One is that at the last Housing Advisory Committee meeting, there was discussion of a worker housing program that is offered in Ucluelet. And we discussed it at some length, and our municipal planner, two of our municipal planners went away and are looking more closely at that program. Essentially, it's a temporary use permit that enables people to bring an RV onto their property for a period of, this is the Ucluelet version, for a period of 6 months. So as a potential fast, temporary, quick fix for a summer crunch, this is being looked at closely by planning staff. And my expectation is that planning will be coming to council on the 25th of this month, because the clock is ticking on summer housing needs. The other thing that's proceeding.
Sorry, can I just clarify? So private landowners, individual private landowners are allowed to put an RV on their property and then rent it out to temporary workers.
Will be allowed.
Or rent it out temporarily to workers.
If this were to be approved, the Ucluelet version also allows for somebody to apply for a temporary use permit and then for someone else to bring an RV onto the property.
Okay.
So in the works, this is not approved, and that's really important at this point. It still has to go completely through planning. It has to come to council, and all the T's and I's and so on dealt with. But it is one response that is that's quick and doesn't require a lot of administration in order to make it work. So the second thing that's in the works and it's been in the works for a little while, is the revision to the detached secondary suites bylaw. And where we got to with the last discussion in the Housing Advisory Committee is that there is interest on the part of a number of committees in revising the definitions that are involved in accessory dwelling units, so that rather than accessory dwelling units being defined as attached or detached secondary suites, that there might be some other housing forms that would be appropriate. And that covers the tiny houses, the manufactured homes, the mobile homes, and so forth. So again, our planning staff are looking at that in the context of the upcoming revision to the detached secondary suites bylaw. And if that goes through, then it would potentially enable greater diversity of housing forms, permitted housing forms on the island. So they address different needs. One is addressing the temporary summer employees. The other, if we use something along the lines of the Ucluelet model, and the other is addressing needs that have been expressed for mobile homes, tiny houses, however they get defined, because who knows what people are talking about when they talk about tiny houses. So those two things. And then the final thing, and it's just to you, Kirsten, in particular, you brought up the point at our meeting of, well, why couldn't we have like a template house? Sort of along the lines of like the kit houses that used to be made, decades ago. And I actually brought it up with a couple of developers. I said, would that work? Like if somebody came up with a good design for a Bowen house, and then people who wanted to build the detached secondary suites had this ready-made design, and it would help cut down on the costs and so forth. And the response from the developers was, on Bowen, it probably wouldn't. And they explained that in terms of the topography of this island and the uniqueness of the different sites. So they said that their bottom line comment was, it's a good idea. It would work really well in other communities, but probably not on Bowen Island. So I think it's still worth looking at a little bit more closely, probably through the Housing Advisory Committee, but it didn't get an immediate, that could be a quick fix to solve some of the housing issues identified across the board in the CED plan. So I wanted you to know that those were on the go. And I think there is one more thing. It's probably more than 5 minutes. The overhoused and understaffed issue. This sort of came up in Facebook and kind of has had some legs since then. We have tons of people on this island who are overhoused. Now, the one person living in the 5-bedroom house. And then we have people who don't have a place to stay, employees, summer employees. So there was an informal notion, and this is the kind of thing that a CED committee could actually do, would be to convene a meeting, an opportunity for people who are running businesses and need a place for their staff to stay, and people who have homes and extra space, essentially have an opportunity to talk about what that's like and how it works. So Glenn Cormier, for example, he, as the employer, he actually rents space, and then that's where his employees go during the summer, the summer employees. So if we're thinking of specifics, that overhoused and understaffed get together might actually help. Anyway, I think it might actually help. But something to consider as a specific that would address some of the issues we talked about at our last meeting.
That's interesting. So you don't think that people who have like homes that they would be willing to have rooms, rented out, have already why wouldn't they have stepped up already, knowing?
They might be a little leery of doing so. They might not want to advertise as such. They might be happy to and this is the unique part of it, they might be happy to rent to a business owner, where the business owner is going to place the employee in a home, and the business relationship between the homeowner and the business owner is perhaps a little bit more formal. Do you get what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
I can see that would add some comfort. So
I was-
actually, is the landlord then actually paid by Glenn?
In Glenn's circumstances, yeah.
I can see how that it's as similar as Airbnb, like, you know, when you Airbnb a room or you can Airbnb your house, but, you know, Airbnb comes with a number of items to protect the owner. So it just kind of reduces your vulnerability or reduces your liability. And so I can see having, you know, a more.
Oh, we should do that. We should really try and create some kind of a convening event or something to look into that more. Oh, Allison, you have your hand up?
Oh, no.
Oh, okay.
And I want to get kind of like the final thoughts from our planning department. When I discussed this, the response was, don't see anything to prevent that. But sometimes pennies drop later. So probably a couple of weeks away from getting the, yeah.
Well, that would, Maureen, that would be just under like room and board,
It's lodging. It's
which
lodging,
is pretty
but
much allowed anyways. So
it's-
No,
yeah.
room and board isn't allowed a boarding house is not allowed in our land use bylaw, I don't think.
lodging is allowed.
Lodging is that, what's the definition of lodging if it's 30 days or less? I'd have to go and look because I
No,
remember.
I'm pretty sure it is allowed in most zones, and
Okay,
it's
I'll
the
go back
difference
up.
between if you're just renting out, you know, literally bedrooms and you have a communal kitchen, then that is allowed. It's called bed and breakfast, I believe, is it not?
Oh, no,
Or-
that's the bed and breakfast is.
It is.
temporary housing, yeah.
Let's not go down the rabbit hole. This is the kind of discussion that does have to happen before we
Yeah.
get into it. But in principle, it's not a bad idea.
Okay, so
Yeah,
let's get that as a,
Yeah, I just want to say I think it's a great idea to explore. I'm not sure how many, because it's quite opening up your house is not, you know, you're interacting daily 24/7 with somebody, you know, mostly. So I'm not sure how much uptake there would be, but I think it's worth exploring.
Mhm.
And I think it's great if it's working for Glenn and he's able to do it. I think that's great. You know, the worker housing thing, I mean, I remember when I was 18 ages ago and I went to work in Banff, and at that time, a long time ago, employers had bought places because they didn't have housing for workers. So they had bought houses. I worked in a chambermaid, and I lived in a house owned by the hotel. So, I mean, this is nothing new. And I was surprised when I came to Bowen. It was one of the things I remarked because I started to hear this problem about workers not having housing. And I thought, why haven't the businesses, you know, this was back 10 years. Why I didn't understand why they hadn't purchased.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's nothing new. But I think this is certainly, Maureen, I think this is a great idea to explore. I'm not sure how much uptake there would be about that. But certainly
I think we should explore that though.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
let's reflect that in our notes. And I do think that because it's you know, it's the businesses, you know, that I think it would make people feel like there's going to be more rules and more oversight, and you're not going to have your house wrecked by somebody who there's no context around that person, right?
Well-
So I do think that's a possibility, but let's just move on for now.
Just one more point about that is that maybe we support businesses also renting a whole house, you know,
Yeah.
taking away that concern about somebody having to find tenants. But if we did the match between somebody who doesn't want to live on island or that kind of, that would be another version of that, whereas the owner doesn't have to live with the people, but maybe we make the match a business renting the whole house kind of thing or whatever.
Yeah, the underlying question though is, to what extent is this needed? And that's what's identified in the notes. You know, just figuring out how much of an issue it is. And I mean, my sense is it's a big issue, but when push comes to shove, you know, how many people actually do need this support? And one of our roles as a committee could be to help actually do that assessment.
Right.
So who's going to volunteer to do that?
I don't know what that.
Somebody,
point.
yeah.
But the whole, like, where we have been really successful as a committee is, there've been a number of successes, but one of the big ones has been bringing people together and getting them
Yeah.
to each other.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really important going forward, that we remember that that convening role is so critical. And we can do all sorts of stuff, but you bring the right people together and
Yeah.
take it forward.
Thanks for that, Marina. I definitely obviously agree with that. That's a really wonderful way to put it, bringing people together. I think that just has a nice connotation to it too, and a good aspirational goal for the community. But one of the comments I just want to make in terms of the two things you brought up. First, I know both of these are still in the state planning stages, but I really like the first one in terms of the, you know, the trailer or whatever mobile semi-permanent dwelling. I think that has a lot. I think that has a lot more impact, especially as the short term. It's a stopgap measure. Obviously, maybe not a full-term solution. But where I'm going with this is, I think there's still an element of bringing people together in that concept as well, because there's businesses that don't have the land to be able to put an RV on or whatever. But there's a lot of people out there with big properties that probably wouldn't mind, you know, a trailer out back, maybe generating a bit of revenue or whatever. Anyways, that would be my thought. So I think in terms of effort, I like the first idea. The second idea, I think, has a lot of concerns and hesitations just in terms, and then also really the impact that would have in terms of how many people are willing to open up their homes or whatever. Yeah, don't be wrong, but I like the first one.
Okay, thanks, Zach.
Okay, great. Okay, I think let's move along with the agenda for today. And can we, though, does everybody agree it would be useful to have another workshop? Because this is, you know, we are coming up with some really good ideas and solutions, but I think that to, you know, go through the whole thing properly, it's going to have to be another session.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
How about the rest of you?
Yeah, it all depends on the date.
Yeah, so what about timing then? Can we do something in like the next month, for instance, or?
Well, I think we need to do something quickly while it's all still fresh in our minds.
Yeah.
Doodle poll.
Should we go to docs again?
Can we meet next week?
Well, we can meet in Muni Hall now. I mean, can't we?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think so.
And just, you know, have a morning meeting and bring in coffee and muffins or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's good. Yeah.
Again, it's really, I don't know about others, but just because of my work schedule,
Oh, right.
It's hard to carve out like a morning. But this may not be everybody's ideal time, but over lunch is easier for me, or late afternoon, even if it started at 3, you know, 3 to 5, something like that. I can sometimes rearrange meetings that way, but
Okay.
Looking at my calendar and the holiday and other municipal activities, is Friday afternoon,
What day?
like say the 22nd, or
yeah. And I have to
I
say,
know people like their Fridays, but I thought if it's a workshop, we could sort of make it fun.
Yeah.
Oxymoron.
yeah, unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to make that Friday.
I can't either.
Oh, okay.
Actually, now that I think of it, I'm traveling to local government conferences, leaving on the Friday and not coming back the following Friday. But I would be free Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday next week. If there's another time.
Wednesday afternoon.
I can't do.
No.
Okay, Steph, do you want to do are you able to do a poll?
Sure.
Sorry, more work.
It's
Or do you
okay.
wanna- Or does everybody just want to try doing this again? But
Well,
not everyone's here.
missing a whole bunch of people.
Yeah. Sorry.
Sorry, I'm just gonna,
Okay, for the people who are here though, in general, is a 3 o'clock time okay?
Yeah, it all just depends on the day of the
It
week.
depends on the day. Okay.
we'll go to poll. Moving on.
Okay.
Can we make sure that we know what our prep is before the workshop? Like, are we all going to, again, hold on to our area and come with some specifics? If that's the plan?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sure that people have some ideas about, each one of these.
But we're only dealing with the yellow highlighted ones, because those are
Okay,
the ones
I'm looking at the very first page and she's got 2.0 to 9.0. Those are 8 items there. And then my understanding was the backup document with the highlighting is a backup, like that's showing where it came from. Is that
Okay,
not
so
it?
the 8.0, so it's actually, there's one in housing. It's nothing for health and wellness. It's 3.1 for food, 4.3 for tourism, 5.1 for arts and culture, 6.2 for digital economy, 7.1 for commercial, 8.1 for housing, and 9.1 for cross-cutting showcase. Those were pulled out. So of each category, there are 3 or 4 items, and you guys chose one of each. So I've listed them here. And then to provide context, I also included the whole list with those categories.
Right.
And what's highlighted is exactly the same as what's above. It's just showing
Okay.
context of what is in there.
So we're looking at
I thought that was helpful, but
items from health and wellness ending in cross-cutting strategies, and if everybody can have a look at
health and wellness. We haven't selected anything from health and wellness. And of my
No.
understanding of what Steph has done is we're only looking at the ones that she's listed.
yes. Well, and in addition, Liam had suggested that we had been working off of this list of recommendations on page 2, and that work was completed. And he suggested we go through the rest of the plan, and there are ideas in the rest of the plan that are sort of randomly sprinkled in. He wasn't specific, but there's obviously something in there he likes. So did we want to go through the rest of the plan and pluck out any interesting items from there? I thought that's what this session was going to be. So maybe that if people are interested in that, that could be another bit of prep.
Okay.
Yeah, so bring anything else that didn't make it to the first round. Okay,
Okay.
but if everybody
We
does,
keep adding priorities and you never get anything done because you got too many priorities. I think we should just stick with the yellow highlighted one.
Okay.
okay, I think we should leave it open, especially as you say, if Liam had something that he really did want to, I don't want to just cut that out.
Okay, we're definitely going to look at the yellow, and it's a bit of work to go through the whole plan. So we'll definitely have to do the yellows, and
Well,
then if you have time, do
Yeah, okay,
But I guess we had the workshop and we zeroed in on the yellow ones being the ones we wanted to put in the work plan. They were the ones we wanted to act on. And if somebody decides that their favorite one wasn't picked, they need to come with a sales document as to why we picked it. If we start adding more, we're never going to get anything done.
okay, but wait. My recollection is we did not get all the way through.
We got through all the way we got all the way through the recommendations.
We did, okay.
Yeah.
I
We
felt
did,
like
but
there
it
was
was a bit of
something.
a gong show. So I
It
think
was, I felt like we left some things on the table. So we really didn't get as far as we wanted. So yeah, I don't think it's just, your favorite thing. I think there were some legitimate things that we just did not, our process did not allow it to come out. Maybe
Yeah.
there's not a lot, but let's just at least leave it.
Okay.
Scott has to leave and I also have to leave. So we're going to lose quorum pretty quick.
Okay.
Do we want to hear from Wendy at all, though? She comes-
Yeah,
I'd like to
Wendy?
hear from
Yes,
Wendy.
she's such a great resource.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Great seeing you all again. And just so happens my dog starts barking. I'm so
Here's your
worried.
voice now.
I know. And she's been quiet the whole hour and she decides, yeah, I'm going to talk. Be quiet. I'm so sorry. So yeah, I do apologize that I missed.
The mailman's arrived.
Yeah.
Good volume.
All right. Okay, so yes, and I was away for a bit, and so I do apologize for that. And just listening in today, I feel like quite a bit has been done, and it's still ongoing. So I just want to share quickly that. And now, and some of you might be aware that my branch is now part of the Ministry of Jobs, Economic Recovery, and Innovation, Jerry for short. So officially April 1st, we went back to the Economic Ministry. Yes, and so things are, we're still kind of in transition right now. You know, as we settle in with our new colleagues, I'm sure there'll be more coming up, because there's the new BC economic plan that was released recently by the minister. And so I'll be happy to kind of discuss with you and see how we can help support any of the, I think what you guys are calling the CED work plan. I think that's what I'm hearing. So that would be interesting, and we can take it from there. So.
Great, thank you. Okay. Do we have any, let's see, Jamie's no longer here, right? So we've had,
He's here, but not here, I think.
right.
Yeah.
Is there any council updates that you're burning to share?
We published the island plan for 2022. So that was approved at the last council meeting. I'm trying to think, I don't have the agenda in front of me. There's a consultation going on, which will be shortly ending for the Islands Trust policy statement update. So I think there's some links to that information on our website. And TransLink's going to be starting public consultation very shortly on Transfer 2050.
There's also a budget consultation.
Oh, right.
And
How could I forget that?
it's on the 21st in council chambers and by Zoom in the evening, 6 to 8 o'clock. So anyone who wants to come and speak to the budget or hear more about it, that's an opportunity to do so.
Great. Okay, thank you. Oh, Jody, is there anything more you want to say in terms of the tourism
We've
update?
lost Jody.
Oh, okay.
That's a nice picture.
How about staff?
I think, did we report on, and we have a new CFO? I think we already reported on that. She's buried in budget and audit. She's working on her own, hiring another financial accountant, but doing great work and works. She's going to be a bit involved with this group when she comes up for air.
Okay.
And then, yeah, just the hybrid meetings now. Council will be meeting live with a hybrid option. That didn't work last year, but technology has been improved. And now it looks like with a Zoom room combination, it may work. Committees we're going to see how we do. It's nice having Kirsten come in from her office and Jamie come in from committees. It might be a little less
Easier to stay on Zoom. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think it could work for the, if you want to get everybody together, the technology, though I wasn't enthralled with it, would work better than it did at DOTS if we use council chambers.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, that's all I have. Thank you.
Great. Okay. I guess, are we done?
Yeah, we'll poll for the workshop. Thank you
Yes.
very much.
Okay, thanks everyone.
Bye.